Start audio. Sir,
Yeah,
start audio.
Thank
you, sir.
Tariq sir, we are trying to make another arrangement. We are trying to be group joined together with our bigger screen in the conference hall. So the facility has been provided by our Vice Chancellor. So that's why we are taking few time. Okay, sir. I hope others will appreciate us now. Okay. We have got the technical person over here. Hello, welcome Imtiaz sir. I could see your face right now. The visuals were there. Welcome to the conference, Imtiaz sir.
Thank you very much.
This is Prashant over here. We are taking few because we are trying to connect with the general connection.
Sure.
Okay. Hi Parma, good morning. Welcome to this place.
Good morning to all of you.
Okay, Horen Johar. Nice to see you on the face. Right?
Johar, sir.
Okay, Johar.
Thank you, sir. PP Singh, please mute your audio, sorry. PP Singh, please mute your audio. क्या हाँ रूम क्लियर करना है डॉक्टर अभी तक तो हमको नजर नहीं आ रहा वैसा कोई
Good morning, everyone. And there's a humble request from my side that please unmute mute all of your audio systems so that there should not be any disturbance to the speakers and all the dignitaries over here. And now I request Tariq sir, can we start the session? Tariq sir. Tariq sir. Tariq sir.
Yes.
Can we start the session, sir? Sir, am I audible to you? Tariq sir?
Amrish, can you hear me?
Yes, sir, I am able to hear you. Can we start the session, sir? Can we start the session, sir? Tariq sir?
Tariq sir, unmute yourself.
Sir, can we start the session, sir? Tariq sir?
तारिक सर को मैसेज भेजो तारिक सर
उनको फोन से सूचित कीजिए.
Tariq sir, good morning. Can you hear me, Dr. Tariq?
Tariq sir?
Tariq sir? Hello, Dr. Tariq.
Sir, sound mute.
Can we start the session now? Hello. Tariq sir, can you hear me? Tariq sir, can you hear me? Dr. Tariq?
I think, sir, you need to make a call to him, I guess.
Tariq,
Please make a call to him.
Tariq, you speak now. Tariq. Tariq, you speak. Speak now.
Tariq sir?
Can you hear me?
Yes, yes. Now
Can you hear me?
Yes,
All
yes,
right.
I can hear you, Dr.
Yes.
Tariq. Can we start now, Dr. Tariq?
Yes, sir. If you wish, we can begin right away.
Yes, yes. Good morning, Dr. Tariq. Yes.
Should we start?
Yes, we can start.
Good morning, namaskar and johar to one and all present here. Dear online viewers, the participants, experts, the organizing committee members, technical committee members, the patron-in-chief, Professor Sonajharia, Vice Chancellor,
Sido Kanhu Murmu University, Dumka, Patron Professor D.G. Rao, Director, Central Institute of Indian Languages, Patron Professor H.P. Sharma, Pro Vice Chancellor, Sido Kanhu Murmu University, Dumka, Dr. Vinod Kumar, Dr. Prashant Kumar. It's my distinct pleasure and privileged duty to welcome you all to the national webinar on linguistic empowerment. It's an important topic that has found resonance everywhere, and we are very happy that it has found a place in the national new education policy 2020 also. I would like to first welcome all our participants, the viewers who are watching this program online, the experts who have generously consented to participate with their views and add to the value of the program. In particular, Professor PanchananMohanty, Professor Awadesh Kumar Mishra, Professor Rajneesh Arora, and Professor Imtiaz Hasnan. I welcome you all. I also take pleasure in welcoming all the colleagues from Sido Kanhu Murmu University, Dumka, and from Central Institute of Indian Languages, Mysore. Since we have lost some time in the initial technical arrangements, I would like to very briefly tell you what we have assembled here for. Today, our objective is to deliberate on linguistic empowerment, what this would mean, in what ways this can be achieved, whether technology can support and in what ways, how policy can support us, how academic institutions like universities and colleges and schools and other machineries can support us, how language activists, language enthusiasts, and academicians in their personal capacity can help us, are all very important. And we would like to see how our distinguished experts would give their ideas on these issues and lead us to devise a plan which can work for a linguistically diverse country like India. It's also my pleasure to inform you that we all are living in two very distinct situations. On the one hand, we have linguistic diversity that we all are proud of. We have several languages spoken side by side and enriching our day-to-day experiences, embodying a lot of knowledge in them. But at the same time, there are occasions in which the speakers of these distinct languages find difficulties with imperfections and need for professional training in all these languages that they speak. And these are the issues on which Dr. Vinod Kumar Jha, with his colleagues at Sido Kanhu Murmu University, realized that there should be a professional program and something that can help the students and teachers who all face such difficulties overcome their problems, and that can help everyone. And in this process, the biggest support they got was from the Vice Chancellor, Professor Sonajharia Minz. And with that, the interactions began with the Central Institute of Indian Languages, which works for the promotion of all Indian languages. And also this kind of realization at the Sido Kanhu Murmu University found resonance here. And that is how the collaboration began. So I welcome you all, and without a delay, would like to first tell you that we have four 4 experts today. And before we begin into the expert talks, we would like to request the Vice Chancellor, Sido Kanhu Murmu University, Professor Sonajharia Minz, to deliver the inaugural speech. And before I request her to give the inaugural speech, I also would like to inform our esteemed viewers about the Vice Chancellor. Professor Sonajharia Minz has received her education in the state of Jharkhand, Tamil Nadu, and Delhi. She received her education at Christian College, Madras, Chennai, Jawaharlal Nehru University, Delhi, and also taught in the universities at Tamil Nadu, Madhya Pradesh, and Delhi. She was associated with Jawaharlal Nehru University before she joined the Sido Kanhu Murmu University, Dumka. Her area of interests are artificial intelligence, cognitive science. She specializes in computer sciences, and I'm very happy to mention that she takes a lot of interest in language matters. It is with her support that the university is organizing this program, and her keen interest in languages would help, I'm very sure, would help all of us to achieve the envisaged goals of this program. So it is my pleasure to request Professor Sonajharia Minz to deliver the inaugural speech. Over to Professor Sonajharia Minz. Madam, please.
Thank you very much, Dr. Tariq Khan. It is my proud privilege this morning to finally see that this national webinar on linguistic empowerment is a reality today. You have used very kind words to not only to introduce me, but also to indicate how this webinar was conceptualized. I think you have been very gentle and kind. I would like to make a confession. I literally drove Dr. V.K.Jha to have something like this, and he would be able to recollect a number of instances as to how my concern and my views on linguistic empowerment has driven to have such an event, which I feel is first one in the series. I'd just like to share my 1 or 2 slides that I have to talk about, because I've got a time of 10 minutes. So if Amresh is going to allow me to share the screen, I think it has happened.
Yes, madam, it is visible.
Yeah. I shall. Yeah. So although there has been a welcome to this webinar, but I think this is my right to welcome all the participants to Sido Kanhu Murmu University. And so we enter the gate, and here I think for me it was again one more dimension of coming to terms with what is in our proximity as reality. And I think although these quotes on languages, such as our language is the reflection of ours, I mean, we can read these quotes, but I can recount as there have been 2 instances in my life during learning process when I have had to struggle with language of instruction, and the kind of disempowered feeling, and being subjected to not being equal to others has also brought in this thing forcefully in me, that probably if the learners feel disempowered or unequal because of language incompetence and non-fluency in language, I think the teaching learning space such as university and the corridors of the university must bring in that empowerment. And I specifically like the second quote. You can never understand one language unless you understand at least two. And I think it is to our advantage in this country that each one of us speaks at least two languages, I think, and especially through education. Besides the home language or the mother tongue, we get to learn the language of instruction. And then it again continues to grow in number. But then I think here, me coming from a computer science background, and a couple of times I've talked about how the programming languages are a subset of natural languages, and they are with it's the objective of programming languages is to eliminate ambiguity. Now, I think in the case of language and study of languages, as well as use of language as a medium of instruction, while the effort is there to not let any ambiguity remain in terms of delivery of content, but on the other hand, there are times that we teachers and anybody who feels is more proficient in a language, we try to throw such words which make the understanding of the concept more and more complicated for learners. And maybe can those joining in mute themselves as they join in? So coming back to my point that at times we teachers specifically like to make the concept so very complicated with more and more increasing use of synonyms, which probably does just the reverse in terms of understanding. And I think this phrase linguistic empowerment is actually from this perspective of the learner, because it is the learner who needs, who should feel equal to others rather than less than the others, because there is non-fluency of speaking the language or not having the not knowing the semantics of the words that are being thrown out in the class for delivery of the content, whatever be the language. So so with these words, I am so thrilled on the other hand, and I feel so energetic this morning that in Sidhu Kanhu University, in Sidhu Kanhu Murmu University, if this discourse starts today, I think this is only a beginning of looking at the students' perspective from the dimension of language. And therefore, let me once again welcome all our esteemed dignitaries. I would like to thank each one of them, and especially CIIL, to agree to collaborate with Sidhu Kanhu Murmu University in this endeavor. I would like to recognize the consent of the director. I'm so sorry, there is a spelling mistake. The director, Professor D.G. Rao, and I'm so grateful that Professor Mohanty, Professor Mishra, Professor Hasnain, Professor Arora have kindly agreed to engage with Sidhu Kanhu Murmu University in order to deliberate on this matter. Because what I'm looking at is, and I would request the august body to, and especially the resource persons, and with Dr. V.K.Jha at the end of Sidhu Kanhu Murmu University, and Dr. Tariq Khan at the from CIIL, to work towards having the guidelines for preparation of the curriculum or the syllabi for, let's say, those who would like to improve in the language of English, because that's in English language, because that's the medium of instruction. One, we can get into doing it bilingual, but does it help the students after they complete their courses here? It doesn't help, because out in the world, they need to compete and also prove to be the best in wherever they want to go. And there, because English is not only an international language, but it's become also the language at a formal place, even in the government of India. How much ever we would like to try to use Hindi and a complicated Hindi that is in use, English continues to be the formal language. And from that, having that in the background, I would request this exercise to, if not culminate in this session or this event, but then to go to the next level and to work out the curriculum, the syllabi, and work towards even the principles and guidelines for, let's say, any curriculum design. Whenever linguistic empowerment is considered, it need not be just for English, which may be an objective right now, but it could be even for Santali, because for non-Santali speakers, we require to also know that having being placed here in Santhal Pargana, or Hindi for that matter. Dr. Vinay is also here. So we discussed these in the when I visited their faculty, and I think this is I feel this is a very futuristic effort that we are trying to make, and we need to take one step at a time to get towards more strengthened, more empowered, and more confident, or producing more strengthened, more empowered, and more confident students who would become the flagship of this university. We've had alumni in a whole lot of places, but then even the students who pass out in, let's say, next 5 to 10 years would be able to see the effort that starts today. So with these words, although smiles do not have a language, and that may be a universal language, I would wish that anybody who enters these gates would continue to communicate besides their proficiency in their subject and language, but the smiles. And with these words, I would like to thank you all.
Thank you, madam. Thank you for your kind words. A very delightful inaugural speech, and thereby setting the right tempo for this important program. You have informed us on various issues, and I'm very sure that would help us deliberate after the expert lectures. And I now take pleasure in inviting Dr. V.K.Jha to introduce the theme of the seminar. Dr. V.K.Jha, over to you, please.
Hello. Thank you, Dr. Tariq. We heard the speech, inaugural speech of our Honorable Vice Chancellor, and that was very inspiring. I'm starting my own speech, and first of all, I welcome you all. Honorable Vice Chancellor, Honorable Director, CIIL Mysore, Honorable Pro Vice Chancellor, our eminent speakers, Dr. Mohanty, President of the Linguistic Society of India, Professor Awadesh Mishra, former Director, FLU, Hyderabad, Professor Hasnain of Aligarh Muslim University, Professor Arora, FLU Campus, Lucknow, Dr. Tariq, officers of the university, my colleagues, the research scholars, and all those who have joined this webinar today. Today is a special day, particularly for the teachers of English working in the colleges and university departments of SKM University, that we have got an opportunity to discuss and deliberate with the experts a few questions concerning the career of thousands of students who join the different courses and programs in this university. This question is to be addressed by some of the best minds from the field of linguistics and language teaching, who have dedicated their lifetimes to solving the problems of language policies in a country where there are, as per the 2011 census, 1,369 rationalized mother tongues. These questions are vital questions. These are the questions of such vital importance that ignoring them for long has put the careers of thousands and thousands of students joining the different programs and courses at graduate and postgraduate levels at a great disadvantage so far as the markers of employability in the present job market are concerned. These questions concern our present, these concerns concern our future. Why do these students joining SKM University possess such low levels of language proficiency, especially in English? In what ways does this low language proficiency impact their future prospects? Is it possible to remedy the loss of this language learning at the college level, at the entry point of graduate and postgraduate courses? Answering the first question must take us to the pre-college years, where the state of teaching English right from the primary stage up to the intermediate or +2 level is in complete disarray. It is in a shambles. Some of the causes of this state have been touched upon in the concept note. You might have read a whole range of causes are responsible for this. One aspect of this problem, opinions may differ on this point, is the syllabus of CBSE being run in Jharkhand. We had a brief discussion with Professor Arora in my informal talk yesterday about this problem. Answering this question or finding a solution to this problem of deficient language at the pre-college stage is beyond the jurisdiction of the university. But by raising this question before our eminent speakers today, who have certainly a role to play in English language teaching, policy and planning, we can at least sensitize them to this problem, even as the new education policy, which is on the anvil and being ready to be implemented, and the success of which will substantially hinge on the way language policy is executed and implemented, because the proficiency in the medium of instruction is directly proportionate to the academic success of a student. The importance of the proficiency in the medium of instruction cannot be overemphasized. Answering the second question with any measure of sincerity must make us feel a little uneasy when we realize how in these parts of India, the backwaters of national life, an average student manages to complete his degree or postgraduate program, struggling through the roadblocks of faulty education system, braving the economic hardships, traveling in a bus, and even walking long distances to attain the class. Poor language proficiency, which is certainly a cumulative consequence, not only adversely affects their learning process at these programs, but also their social life, where because of the poor communication skills, they are unable to play the role of guides for the younger generation as educated persons in the society. And you feel guilty when you see the bright hope in their eyes when they join the colleges or departments, because you know that the system that we are working in will not ignite their fire of ambition, but will slowly and gradually dampen their spirits and give them a degree or a certificate, which will hardly help them in negotiating the challenges that await them in real life. There is another angle to this problem. The area in which this university is situated is a multilingual, multicultural, and a very impoverished region. And the teachers who are teaching in schools and colleges and departments are mostly Hindi speaking teachers, and they can teach in English. But the students who join these courses here are mostly from the background of Santhali, Bengali, and Malto, and a language Malto is spoken by Pahadias in this region. So those students feel great difficulty in understanding when they are being taught in English or in Hindi. It is the third question that must merit our attention mainly today. Is it possible to remedy the situation at this level of college and department? Can we equip the students joining SKM University with a certain agreed upon level of English language proficiency and communicative skills that they may qualify for the employability scale of the present day job requirements? What kind of a mechanism it will be? In the concept note, a way out has been suggested, a foundation course in English proficiency for all the students, regardless of English being their subject, course subject. What kind of foundation course? Will it be flexible? Will there be one single module, or there should be more than one module to be used for the different groups with varying proficiency scales? Should these modules take into account the linguistic features of the first languages spoken by the students, which in the case of the Santal Parganas, as I have already mentioned, are 4: Santali, Bengali, Hindi, and Malto. These are some of the questions, I must admit, I'm raising from the point of view of classroom teacher and not necessarily as a researcher. And so I feel a fair amount of diffidence in asking them. There are other questions about this module, possible module. Will it take into account other factors like multilingual or multicultural aspects of the society that we are working for? That, in my view, that foundation course must be workable in the given conditions and circumstances in which our university has to function with limited resources, both physical and human. Whatever the circumstances, we must do this for this young generation. We must empower them linguistically, linguistic empowerment. That is the term, and that is the main theme of today's webinar. I had this term linguistic empowerment earlier, but let me tell you frankly, I did not pay much attention to the implications and meanings of this linguistic empowerment. But when our new Vice Chancellor used this term, explaining it as of vital importance to the students, to the very, very purpose of teaching in this university, its importance for the academic system, we could not but be heeding it. We, the teachers of language, especially the teachers of English. I still remember the day when our new Vice Chancellor decided to visit the academic block, and she was meeting the teachers of different faculties, and she came to the English department to meet the teachers of English, Hindi, and Santhali. It was during this discussion that she used the term linguistic empowerment. There was a sense of urgency in her voice that caught us by surprise, we the teachers, and also caught our imagination. We all agreed to the need of linguistic empowerment. Many points that have been raised in the concept note were discussed in that meeting. Why students have such low proficiency, not only in English, but also in Hindi or maybe in Santhali. Prepare a report. Report was submitted. She read the report. Yes, the report is all right as far as it goes, but can we have the expert opinions of the experts through some kind of a webinar? I had to say, yes, ma'am, let me try. And then I talked to Dr. Tariq. In fact, this problem I had been discussing with Tariq whenever I met him, maybe at Mysore personally, in person, or maybe on telephone. And I found that Dr. Tariq was very much concerned about the state of English language teaching at the college and university level. And then we had the opportunity to listen to Professor Mohanty and Professor Awadesh Mishra in a webinar. And I found that the ideas that they were expressing about the problem of language teaching resonated with their ideas. I was inspired further. And here we are. This webinar was possible. You have already heard the Vice Chancellor, and I have already stated that she means business. She wants a foundation course to be introduced for the students in this university. And we had certain discussions about it, and she wanted first this to be the outcome of this webinar. And I hope that the experts who would be deliberating on this issue will be expressing their views on this. We are waiting to hear them. I, as the convener of this webinar, must thank our speakers today who agreed so readily to spare some time from their busy schedule. I must thank Professor V.K.Jha, the director of CIIL, who was kind enough to permit Dr. Tariq to be the coordinator of this webinar. I must admit, without Dr. Tariq, this webinar would not have been possible. And I'm looking forward to hearing a goodwill message from the director of CIIL towards the end of the webinar, because I have been told by Dr. Tariq that Director Sir is busy, and so he will be arriving at the institute a little late. So we are waiting to hear Professor Mohanty, Professor Awadesh Mishra, Professor Hasnain, and Professor Arora. Thank you, Dr. Tariq. Thank you very much. Looking forward to hearing.
Thank you, sir. It was very informative. You have explained the context of this webinar, and thereby you have brought a lot of issues before us. And I'm very sure our experts would throw light on these issues and also lead us to understand the topic of linguistic empowerment in a better way. I, in the first place, invite Professor Mohanty, Professor PanchananMohanty, who is the first speaker today. And before his lecture, let me introduce him to the viewers. Professor PanchananMohanty, although does not require an introduction of a formal kind, but I take pleasure in mentioning some of salient points about the expert speaker. And I am very happy to inform you all that Professor Mohanty is professor and head of Institute of Applied Sciences and Humanities at GLA University, Mathura. And before that, he worked at the University of Hyderabad in the Center for Applied Linguistics and Translation Studies. And he also served there as Dean School of Humanities. Professor PanchananMohanty has 4 decades of experience in teaching and research. He is a renowned academician who received his education in the state of Odisha, and Delhi, and later he worked at Sambalpur University, Barhampur University, Odisha, and then joined the Center for Applied Linguistics and Translation Studies at the University of Hyderabad. And finally, on retiring on superannuation, he joined the GLA University, Mathura. Professor PanchananMohanty is also the President, Linguistic Society of India. He has also the distinction of being the President of the Dravidian Linguistics Association, and he has also served as the editor of the two very important journals of linguistics in this country. The first is Indian Linguistics, and the second is International Journal of Dravidian Linguistics. He has a lot of awards and achievements, academic accomplishments to his credit, but more than anything, more than mentioning them to you, I would like to pass on the opportunity to everyone to listen to him directly and gain from his lecture. So over to Professor Mohanty now. Professor Mohanty, can you unmute yourself?
Sir, Mohanty sir has unmuted. Mohanty sir, can you unmute yourself?
Yes, can you hear me now?
Yes, sir. Yes, yes, sir.
Yep. Yep.
So you can begin now.
Okay. Vice Chancellor Professor Sonajharia Minz, Professor D.J. Rao, PVC Professor Sharma, Dr. Vinod Kumar Jha, Prasad Kumar Ji, Professor Awadesh Kumar Mishra, Professor Imtiaz Hasnain, Professor Rajneesh Arora, Dr. Tariq Khan, dear colleagues and friends and students. It's a pleasure to talk to you about, linguistic empowerment in this country. This linguistic empowerment is not a very popular concept in a country like India. I know there are linguistic empowerment cells in a couple of universities, and we have been talking about language empowerment, but it's not a very popular term. Today, whatever I have decided, what I have decided is that I'll be going to very old sources and discuss some of the important issues which are very crucial for us to understand. Instead of discussing whatever is happening at the latest and high funda issues, which most people don't understand, I'll discuss the basic things, because this is the necessity for this country today. That's the reason for which, I will start, I'll read the first paragraph, a few lines from a book titled Language by Leonard Bloomfield, and it was published in 1933. I'll read the very first few lines. I read now. Language plays a great part in our life. Perhaps because of its familiarity, we rarely observe it, taking it for granted as we do breathing or walking. The effects of language are remarkable and include much of what distinguishes man from the animals. But language has no place in our educational program or in the speculations of our philosophers. The last line is very important. Language has no place in our educational program or in the speculations of our philosopher. This is very important. And this, whatever Bloomfield stated some 33 minutes, you can say almost 90 years ago, holds true for India even today. He has made a statement about linguistics. I'll just read a few lines. The same page, first page. Linguistics, the study of language, is only in its beginnings. The knowledge it has gained has not yet become part of our traditional education. The grammar and other linguistic instruction in our schools confines itself to handling on the traditional notions. Many people have difficulty at the beginning of language study, not in grasping the methods or results, but in stripping off the preconceptions which are forced on us by our popularistic doctrine. The same thing is happening in this country so far as language education is concerned. As all of us know, grammars can be of different types. In fact, grammar is not there in a book. Grammar is always there in the brain, and it is found in the society. And this is very important because that is the reason for which even the most illiterate, within quotes, a person speaks the language very well, understands the language very well, though that person doesn't know how to read and write. So grammar is a very different kind of concept. What we have done is that, and grammar, it is derived from a Greek word which refers to writing. So we have taken it for granted that only written languages have grammars, or grammars can be written. Spoken languages have no grammars or bad grammar. That kind of concept we have, and it is there even in the most educated people of this country, which is awfully bad, wrong. And such things we will have to probably tell everybody that no, spoken languages are also important. The moment you talk about linguistic empowerment, we will have to talk about two things. First, let's talk about the spoken language, then we'll go to the written language. If we don't talk about the spoken language, it will be very difficult for us to go to this written language. That's the reason for which I'm discussing these things. It is also assumed that teaching grammar is teaching language, which is not correct at all. Teaching grammar is teaching about a language. If you say that, well, English has, let's say 3 numbers, 5 genders, whatever, that kind of thing. All sorts of things have been written about English. English has, let's say, 3 tenses. Let's say somebody says that. Now, if somebody says that, then you are talking about the language, you are not teaching about the language. You are not teaching the language. Grammar is something which is not language. It is the principles which are followed when a person speaks a language. Rules which are followed when a person speaks a language. So grammar is that kind of thing. But what we have done is that we have emphasized grammar so much that the spoken language or written language, whatever, it has been relegated to a secondary position today. That is the reason, since the students cannot relate the grammar taught in the class to the knowledge they have about the language, they have to rote memorize, or they do rote memorize and then forget about the grammar. The moment the exams are over, they forget about the grammatical rules. That's what is happening for ages. Here, of course, I would like to quote because English wasn't there in this country, let's say a few hundred years ago. It's a very recent addition to our verbal repertoire in this country. I would again go back to another grand master of linguistics, Edward Sapir, who stated, I quote him, in earlier times, there seems to have been little systematic attempt to impose the language of a conquering people on the subject people, although it happened frequently as a result of the process implicit in this period of culture that such a conqueror's language was gradually taken over by the dispossessed population. Thus, foreign dynasties in China have always submitted to the superior culture of the Chinese and have taken on their language. In the same way, the Muslim Mughals of India, while true to their religion, made one of the Hindu vernaculars the basis of the great literary language of Muslim India, Hindustani. Definitely repressive attitudes towards languages and dialects of subject peoples seem to be distinctive only of European political policy in comparatively recent times. Now see, when the Mughals came and adopted an Indian language, and it's Hindi, Urdu, that kind of language is a product of that and product of that contact and convergence between the two linguistic groups, cultures, etc., etc. Now, what happened to English? The English people came, and as all of you know, people, our educated, the elites of India those days never wanted to send their children to an English medium school. But over a period of time, English became a very important language economically. And all of us know the Macaulay's very famous statement that the English teaching of English in this country, the purpose was to create a class of people who will be Indian in blood and color, but they should be, British in taste, etc., etc. That is the reason. And as they have left, the English people have left. So English has not converged with, the Indian languages in a great way. And of course, there is something called Indian English. We have been talking about that. I'll come back to that a little later. Now, there was a big gap between English and the Indian languages. And even today, all of us know that, the so-called people in this country are not very sure if there is something called Indian English. Though I strongly believe if we can have a language and it has and its dialects, we can have something called Indian English and varieties of Indian English. Let's talk about Indian Englishes. We can even do that. So here, the problem is English. We are not able to discuss, the problems of English in India in a much, what should I say, proper way, scientific way, and in a rigorous kind of matter. Now, when we talk about English, now the question will be how, as all of us know, thanks to Braj Kachru, who made the concept of Indian English very popular all over the world. And, he talked about 3 circles. Inner circle, which consists of, or which comprises the native speakers of English. The outer circle, and India is in that, where English is a second language, and the third one was expanding circle, in which English is treated as a foreign language. We treat in India English as a second language. Now the problem here is, can we really treat English as a second language in this country? Though there are quite a few surveys and studies, and we have always found that Indian English is very, very a very weak kind of concept, and that's why a lot of scholars say that there is nothing called Indian English. We have Tamil English, Bengali English, Punjabi English, Marathi English, etc., etc., but nothing called Indian English. So this debate is on even today. And as all of you know, there was a time when people talked about Chi-Chi English. English, Chi-Chi English is when you want to denigrate something, you use this word. I don't want to go there. I can quote all those things. But Chi-Chi English, that means Indian English was not really something which was quite important from their point of view. Now, this is the situation in which we are living in India so far as the English is concerned. And here, why we are discussing this is that we talk about when we are teaching a language, the purpose is to instill competence in that language so that the students will be able to be creative in that language as we are creative in our languages. Nobody has taught us the mother tongues. We have acquired all these our mother tongues at home, and it may be one mother tongue, it may be two. I mean, bilingualism can be a mother tongue also, etc. But we have acquired all these things at home, and we are quite creative. Because recently, I can give an example. I was talking to somebody in Hindi a few days ago. He said, "Arey, ye to ghee wala ghada hai." Ghee wala ghada means, some kind of pot which has been smeared with ghee. That means nothing will stick to that. And he was talking to me. It's an informal talk, but said that. See the creative kind of thing which he was using. It's a creative language. And now the question is, when we teach English, the purpose is to make them competent in the language so that they can create. But even today, I have heard in many webinars in the last 3-4 months that people say that, well, when we speak English, we think in our mother tongues and we translate it into English. And this is the kind of impression we have about English. And when we talk about grammar also, is it a grammar of the language that we are teaching? Do we really teach them the grammar of English? We don't. Because now, see, people, and since I have been involved in a department of English now, when I talk to my colleagues, they said that English has 4 genders: masculine, feminine, neuter, and common gender. When I asked them, I was really flabbergasted to hear that from full professors of English. Then when I asked them, can you give an example? They said boy is masculine, girl is feminine, table is neuter, child is common gender, because a child can be a male and a female. This is the concept people have. Then what is, then I asked them, since they are Hindi speakers, I said, Meri naak, but mera kaan. So do you mean to say that naak is a boy and, naak is a girl and kaan is a boy? No, it's not correct. I said, then do you call it male gender, female gender? Why masculine gender and feminine gender? Why do you say that? So gender is a grammatical concept. It has nothing